Sam Pennington crouched in the filthy concrete stairwell, his eyes scanning the wasteland that the boys would have to cross. Slowly the three brothers emerged into view across the rubbish-strewn ground. Gypsies, Sam was sure of it. They might live in the flat across the road and not in a caravan, but they were gypsies nonetheless. The white van and the dad's two greyhounds gave it away. They were the type who had stolen tractor diesel from Sam's family farm and had chased rabbits and hares with their dogs, trampling all over the fields without a care about the crops they were ruining. Yep, these boys were going to be trouble. Sam had seen them across the street, talking and staring, when he and his mum were moving into their flat. The next day, the oldest one knocked on the door and asked if Sam wanted to play football. Sam had refused. He knew what they were trying to do, lure him out. A fight was just a matter of time. Sam crouched even lower as the boys, unaware of him lying in wait, got closer. The brothers jostled, competing to kick an empty Coke can into an imaginary goal. Their easy sibling manner jarred Sam and made him even more determined as they walked forward, oblivious to the danger a few yards ahead. He jumped up and sprinted from the stairwell, going straight for the biggest brother. The boy didn't even have time to raise his hands as Sam punched him hard in the mouth. He crashed to a heap on the ground, screaming. Perfect. Sam had felt teeth break and knew the boy wasn't getting up. That left one kid about his own size and the runt. Sam turned toward the bigger boy, whose gaze shifted fearfully from the screaming brother to his assailant. The boy lifted his hands to protect his face, so Sam lowered his aim and smashed his fist into the boy's chest. He fell on his backside, fighting for air. Sam glared at the youngest brother, who was standing a few yards away, frozen in fear. A large, wet patch appeared on the little boy's trousers. With one last look at his brothers, he turned and ran away as fast as he could. "I'll get you later," Sam shouted after him, letting him go. The kid wasn't important. Sam had done what was needed. Both older boys were sniveling on the ground, cowering in the dirt. "You scum! Leave me alone!" Sam snarled. The younger boy glanced at Sam warily. "We only wanted to play football." Sam looked down at the boy. "Leave me alone," he repeated, before walking casually back toward his flat. When he knew he was out of sight, he broke into a run and sprinted home. Order had been established. Janet Pennington sat by the window and watched the street below, her back turned to her new home. The second-floor flat, part of a run-down public housing complex, consisted of just 4 rooms, a living room with a built-in kitchen, a moldy bathroom, and 2 bedrooms so small that the beds touched the walls at both ends. The flat had been filthy when they moved in, the threadbare carpet covered in dirty marks and nicotine-stained wallpaper peeling at the edges. She had spent 3 days scrubbing, but the floor still stuck under her feet. They were lucky, the housing officer had said. With the government's big public housing sell-off in full swing, unless you were a teenager with babies, you stood little chance of getting one. They had gotten one. Their unusual circumstances had obviously struck a chord with the world-weary housing officer. Janet had felt that perhaps their luck was changing when it was confirmed that they had a place. There were some charming government-owned houses in the villages near Copp's Farm, where she had lived for 17 years since marrying Sam's father. However, her hopes had plummeted when she first drove into the Mandela complex. Litter was strewn everywhere, and intimidating gangs of kids stared as their Land Rover pulled in. It couldn't have been more different from the life that they'd known, but now 28C Soweto Rise was her and Sam's new home. As Janet gazed out the window, she saw Sam charging down the street. Seconds later, he burst into the flat, slamming the door and bracing himself against it. "Hi, darling. How was your first day at school?" she asked, brightly, craving communication after a day alone in the flat. "Crap," he said, panting. Janet noticed his hands were shaking. "Come on, it can't have been that bad," she said with a little hope. "It was crap, and I'm not going back." "Please stop swearing, Sam. You never used to swear. My life never used to be screwed." Janet's eyes welled up with tears. "Well, it's not my fault." Her voice quivered, unconvinced. Sam grunted and made for his room. "No, please stop and talk." Janet's last word was drowned by the sound of Sam's door slamming shut. She sighed heavily as her gaze returned to the street below. It hurt so much to see her only child like this. Once he had been a happy boy, full of laughter and smiles, but he had changed completely. Since the accident, he had assumed an almost permanent aggressive frown.